Into our 8 o'clock hour. Once again, most welcome into our kickstart. It is rising questions on missing citizens as well as the East African crude oil pipeline. It still needs more perspective, and we want to understand different perspectives of a party, but also perspectives of the youth. We did have a fronting of young people as they were presented to protest against the EU Parliament resolution that was passed regarding the East African crude oil pipeline. And so many have come out to ask themselves, why did they have to use young people, students at that? And that has definitely put some things on the spotlight. Now, here to give us broader understandings, statuses and updates on these conversations, I am joined by Waiswa Mufumbiro, who's the Deputy Spokesperson for the National Unity Platform. Good morning to you, Alex.
Good morning, Priscilla. Always humble to be here.
You're most welcome. And also Jacob Eyeru, who's the chairman for the National Youth Council. Jacob, good morning to you.
Good morning, Priscilla. It's been a while.
I know, it has been a while. But I'll start with you, Waiswa. Yesterday you held a presser regarding the issue of missing people. And this continues to worry Ugandans because it's as if we're saying that the drones are fully back, even in the time where you should be having political harmony.
Well, for me, even in the perspective of them being back, I think it is an understatement. They have been around, but probably now they have been accelerated. People are being taken during day, during night, and it is now in public view. When it all started up way back in 2017, it was more of a story. But now we are glad that we are not being tormented in isolation. At least there is those who care to see are seeing what is happening. Very young, many young people. If you go to Chitalia, on your turn off to the prison itself, it has been identified by the village as a people power prison or an NUP prison. And it's very unfortunate because these persons have no offense whatsoever. Some of them were court-martialed by its own sound, court-martialed. Civilians being court-martialed. There is a clear ruling on civilians going to the court-martial emanating from the case of the Honorable Kabaziruka versus the Attorney General in his times when he was court-martialed for allegedly desiring to kill General Museveni in Rachtura. He was court-martialed, but then we have a court of appeal ruling on the same. But today it is abused on us, young people from ages of 18. In fact, Sky Soldier was arrested when he was 17. He made 18 when he was in prison. It is very, very unfortunate in this 21st century that we are witnessing such barbaric, archaic, outlawed, devastating human degradation of people who went to the bush, had over 500,000 people killed, and our fathers, our mothers, our country was taken aback in public trust, and today we are facing the same challenges. These are the very persons who said that it would not be possible for them to be in charge of a country.
So I want to find out from you, according to the National Unity Platform, how many persons do you have reported missing?
We have over 50 persons, 50. Now these have been identified, but then there are those that we have not identified. And we also now move out of the bracket of having only those abducted because they are affiliated to us as National Unity Platform. We should be cognizant of the fact when we get such a platform that it is not only in isolation to particularly members of the National Unity Platform that are in politics. I will tell you, there are rich men in town here who have been abducted because of their finance muscle and taken by blackmail, by security operatives in the name of the same way of arrest, of being taken in drones. You saw just recently an Asian man who was abducted by security personnel. Later the security says they don't know them, but they were putting on security fatigue. This is a nation in the 21st century that has even spent over $500 million on cameras. But today, in broad daylight, people like Bosco Chibalama, people like Damulira, people like Wangolo, people like Kanata, they are missing, but were taken by the state.
All right, this is why I want to bring in Chairman National Youth Council, Jacob. Of course, they've mentioned a person taken as young as 17 years of age. That's a young person, that's a youth. And I know that in your mandatory docket as the National Youth Council, one of your mandates is to protect the young people of this country. What do you make of this situation and the protection of the young person?
Thank you. First, I need to say 17 is a child, it's not a youth per se in our laws. But we have detention centers for even as low as 11. We have a remand home, we have a correction facility in Kampiringisa. So we do have places where these people can take, security agents can take these young people. I think where I agree with them is that people should be brought to the rightful procedure of justice, and it should be in the public eye to see that security operatives or forces take these people and then present them to face justice. What I cannot claim to be on this show is a security expert. I cannot claim to be a security expert here. But I know for certain that people are not being arrested because of their political affiliation. Otherwise, we would not have enough prisons for them. The National Unity Platform was voted, the presidential candidate was voted for by over 3.5 million Ugandans. And so it is not possible to say that 3.5 billion Ugandans are being targeted. It's not possible to say. I think these particular individuals that are being picked up, regardless of the manner, might have specific reason why they are being picked up. And I think where I agree with them is that even though you're picking them for specific reason, give them the conduct that any Ugandan would want to see of their relative, of their family member. If the state has something against them, arraign them in court in due time and be able to charge them legally. And I think the UPDF spokesperson has said they will do something of the sort. So I really hope that it is resolved in the best interest of our country's future and in the best interest of what example the country needs to give the young people for how security operatives operate and the intention with which they operate. Because if we are committed as a country to the rule of law and we are committed to gestures that show that we are advancing the rule of the people, of democracy, then some of these tenets are very important, and I agree that those that are taken should be arraigned. What I don't agree with is that they are taken because of their political affiliation alone. All
right, National Unity Platform yesterday came out to actually render help, immediate resolutions in the meantime, for the affected families that have children. You have committed to educate these children in the meantime as you look for the missing persons, relatives and guardians for that matter. How is this going to aid in the fight that you are up?
First of all, for clarity, it is on public record, it is on court record that these persons have been abducted because of their political affiliations. Some have been charged, actually, in the court martial for donning this beret that I am putting on national television now, and I can bet I will not be arrested, but many people, young people, have been charged for putting on this beret, okay, and that is on public record. Secondly, the other public record on the parliamentary answer presented by government, all these persons I have spoken have been spoken about, and at one time General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni confirmed on the abduction of these people, where he also averred that probably they would compensate those that had been injured in that political debacle. Therefore, I want to assert that This is political persecution. You all know that Nubian Lee spent and his team spent over 7 months in prison, but they were picked up in Kalangala. So it is let's leave the fact to the facts. It is on public record. And on the issue of the families, we have over 150 young kids. These are now the ones that we have documented. We can't afford that, of course, but it is upon us also to find solutions as leaders to these kids, as of course the ultimate solution to all this is ending the dictatorship and ending the dictatorial regime of General Museveni, because if you don't do that, then the numbers will accumulate. These are the ones that we have hands on, but they are those that we have not yet even accessed. So for us, we have asked the public, and this it has always done in public interest, to assist us with these families individually. We don't need even to supervise, as long as we know that it is not a fraud, because still the National Unity Platform, because of its magnanimity, some lacunas that we are yet to cover have caused some people to use that as an opportunity to fraud others. Okay. Therefore, it is important that we use the rank and file of the same through the party secretariat to see that these kids get at least the minimal education we can give, as we struggle to find the lasting solution to ending this dictatorship.
One of the solutions that you came up with mitigating in the matters of the crude oil pipeline is engaging with the European Union Parliament, for which then a resolution there came through. So what on who are you engaging on this matter of abductees?
I want to tell you and to confirm to the country that the National Unity Platform and our generational vision bearer, His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, have presented an omnibus challenge to different platforms all over the world on the challenges we face. We have one with ISIS, we have one with financial institutions all over the world. We have also petitioned, we have an omnibus petition concerning the livelihood and the human being of Uganda. So we have all these. We have those in ICC, we have those with other institutions all over the world. So we want to tell the country that we expect results. They come in small, they take long, but our commitment to whatever we are doing every day is what gives us a living. We have the protests all over in the diaspora, and we are now calling upon even the Ugandans here, now that these can also protest for oil, then it means the space is now open. Let's all Ugandans start to protest against the bad ills that the government has done to us.
National Youth Council, what is your stance on the crude oil pipeline?
Well, just to make it clear, I think that any Ugandan, not just the National Youth Council, should speak about oil in lieu of what oil can do for this country's needs, but also in lieu of their identity first as a Ugandan and the ownership they have to the resource of oil as a Ugandan. So for the National Youth Council, we fully agree with anyone who says that the Uganda crude oil pipeline must go forward as scheduled and should not be delayed. And we fully agree with anyone who supports Uganda to attain it at the earliest time possible, so that we can, as Ugandans and in our generation, be able to lay the foundation necessary for economic takeoff and development. I think that there have been a couple of jittery comments in the public about whether we own the oil, about whether the oil is going to benefit everyone, and so many other things. And we are confusing our personal opinions or personal preferences in the management of oil for the national interest in having oil as a resource. It's like saying we should deal more with whether Lake Victoria is Ugandan or not, than whether it will actually benefit people. I think the latter should be priority in the case of Lake Victoria, and that's how I approach the oil discussion. So National Youth Council has not issued a statement on these matters. We have been seeing them develop, but our sister entities, the Uganda National Students Association, have been able to make their voice clear on the position of oil. They have petitioned the EU delegation here, and we are yet to make our own contribution to that conversation. But it goes without mention, we are for development of Uganda at the earliest opportunity, and that comes in the form of accelerating accelerating the exploration of oil activities and the commercialization of the oil industry in Uganda.
Well, 45 billion, and you do have the largest percentage of that, up to 70% being young people. So you're talking about development. Where is the development, and what are the opportunities that are presented for the youth to partake in the management and also exploitation of the oil that we do have in Uganda, so that we can again deal with the gap of unemployment that we have in the young people still?
Thank you. You see, when you set up a school, you are not providing the students alone. You are providing for teachers, you're providing for cooks, you're providing for compound slashers, and that is how the oil industry also plays out. There is an acute lack of expertise in our economy for the necessity of the oil industry, and that's understandable. There is no country where oil is not explored or doesn't exist, and they have capacities in excess for oil exploration. So in Uganda, where young people are going to benefit, number one is that we are going to acquire a human capital development in management of oil as an industry, and that's along the whole value chain, from exploration to extraction to dissemination, and this is accounting for over 100,000 jobs. But when you go into the value chain, the linkages, the communities that will benefit, young people stand to have between 600,000 to 1.5 million jobs because of the exploration of oil. But even more, the activities, the money that comes from the earnings from oil as an economy are almost about 50% of our GDP currently. So you're talking about what you see in Uganda, 50% of what we produce coming from one sector, and the impact of that on job creation, on livelihoods, on housing, on the quality of education cannot be stated in the time you've provided for.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about the post of the decision by the European Union Parliament. How different entities have reacted. We saw a protest that was staged, and you did have school-going children with placards being paraded in protest of the East African crude oil pipeline resolution by the European Union. And the message they're pushing out there is leave us alone and leave our oil alone. I'll start with you, Waiswa. What did you make of this protest?
Just to give a little background in my analysis of this oil as I quickly drive to the question. First of all, our argument about this oil, I think, has not been given enough analysis to what we are saying. Nobody does not want this oil to be drilled. But we are saying, first of all, the openness, the clarity on the agreement itself is mind-boggling. 62% of this oil has already been given to Total. And the argument about what we're discussing now, in fact, is not about the drilling. We are talking about the pipeline, the transportation of this oil away from Uganda to Tanga. This is now the argument. Okay, and we are saying this is a heated pipe. This pipe is 1,400 and about 50 kilometers or so. It is going to pass through our sites. The families, over 3,000 families, for the last 4 years have not also been accessing this land for usage on anything because the compensation has been delayed. These are the arguments, the abuse of human rights. If this oil goes in the dictators of these bloody hands that are doing these abductions, what is going to happen tomorrow? The mismanagement that has been here. Let me tell you, I am a boy of Ginger. We grew up all knowing the rail line. It was done from east to Kasese just for transportation of copper and the infrastructure of Kilembe mines. I know for a fact that now even the rail line itself has been stolen. It's no longer existent. Do we trust these people with our oil as well? These are the questions we are posing, and they're very pertinent and important questions. On this oil, we have 8%. They passed a law to steal the land of the people during compensation. How did they pass it? They said that where they have determined absentee landlords, they will just go and deposit money in the bank. All this is in the name of stealing from those local people. They talk about local content. We are supposed to benefit from Tilenga because the whole of Kingfisher is going to be transported. Tilenga has about 60,000 barrels that we're going to benefit. That is where we think we could even have the refinery with China. The logistical approach of it, where we agreed that that would be our benefit, has been given to GCC, the United Arab Emirates. The local person here is getting nothing. And secondly, where the question of bringing in kids now, first of all, you even lie to them. You don't mind the facade you're creating in the future of your existentiality. You want that every day-to-day living of posture. You lie to young kids, okay? You tell them you're meeting them for a certain particular discussion. You'll have their welfare sorted, then you bring them on the streets. It was a shame. It is a shame to this government that they would even do that. And you're doing it. You journalists wanted just to go and take your case to the human rights. You know what happened to you? You're clobbered. Everybody here is clobbered apart from these kids now who are on the street, brought and facilitated by the regime, lied to. That was an abuse of those kids. The person who did that is supposed to be in prison, just like the person who has negotiated our oil deal. Look at all the deals that have been negotiated in darkness by the regime. Let's go one by one. Look at the energy deal. Do we have a good deal? They have attested today that it is a bad deal. Look at the airport deal. It is a bad deal. So if we are stopping a deal that has not been open, and it is an abuse of the law if it is also not open, because AIT clearly states out that there must be openness in such, but this whole transaction has been opaque from the start. The people who are at the helm of EACOP, all of them, they have been headhunted. They are not persons of rank and file who are accountable to the all the accountability structures of this country. Nobody knows them. There is Kamuntu, there is Muwezi. They are not going to account to anybody. So, Jacob, so it was an abuse.
In regard to what Waiswa has presented, the concerns that they have, that it's not really that they are against the oil being put out there. It's not like they're unpatriotic.
In fact, we are more against the person.
It's not like
the mismanagers.
Some people have come out to say that it is selfish of them to think of themselves in this conversation other than the general Ugandan that we're talking about. So the argument of that he's presenting versus the human rights alignment versus the economy at large.
I think my elder brother here, Waiswa, needs to choose a struggle. Are they against the existence of the crude oil pipeline, like like the European Union Parliament was clearly against, or they are against it being there now? Because I think there's a problem with principle there, and that's something he needs to deal with internally, and as NUP they need to deal with internally. To be clear, would they support the pipeline if they are in power or not? Because what Ugandans are saying right now is that the pipeline is necessary. They are not saying it's necessary because President Museveni is advancing it. They're saying it's because of what oil does to our economy. Let me just address a couple of issues.
Could I give clarity on that, because it is important.
Yes,
let me tell you, we have done enough research. This pipeline is 1,500 kilometers. The construction of over $12 billion, over $9 billion is going to go to Tanzania. That is why we are talking about 8% for Uganda. In Turkana, just here, Kenya, because of their discovery of oil, they have a refinery that is already built. If you did your pipeline from this side to the east, like you had actually gone for negotiations, it would be a better deal. So you will not even affect the environmental challenge they're telling you. They're telling you you are passing Queen Elizabeth, you have other parks that you're going to affect. This side of Turkana, if we have a better assessment as National Unity Platform, that would be our remedy. already. And in other ways, anyway, we could also have other ways of seeing that it is developed right here.
Which argument is that
So now
all these procedures have gone through the right parties, the right entities to be able to arrive to the decisions that were made on the pipeline and where it's going to be passed.
Nobody knows.
So that we cannot put.
Nobody knows.
Let me
so
start
Jacob,
here.
yes.
About 70% of the pipeline is in Tanzanian land. It is logical consensus, therefore, that the money being spent on building, where 70% is more than the 30%. I don't know why that's very hard to see in this conversation. But the easier thing for us all to agree on is one, the environmental assessment report is existent. It's public. You can always access it for you to be able to make the arguments on whether the crude oil pipeline affects our nature as badly as Noop would really love that it does, or it doesn't. In fact, we are going for a heated pipeline by a modus that is trying to be environmentally friendly. We are trying to say, can we heat it with solar or with electricity? That does not present the coal that would, which is used in some places to heat pipelines, that would affect the environment the way he is trying to allege. So I do not think that Noop has really researched this matter. I think they're just pushing a political position that serves their political interests. But now, to speak to the students, let me say this. The students that were there were not primary school. So you cannot say that they were bribed and they did not know that this is Kampala Road. This is
neither did they have a say in them being there.
No.
Neither did they say no.
There is a WUSA invitation.
Exactly.
There is a WUSA invitation.
No. Let me have some time. The UNSA president, the president of the students of this country, is always at liberty to invite students for a conversation. And I think that he did. When at the conversation they adopt a resolution to take an action, you do not begin to say after the resolution is taken that they have been bribed for that purpose. Fine, let's assume they have been bribed. What was wrong with what they did? In the history of this country, of this continent, student movements have been the anchoring part of the future of their countries. Whether you're talking about apartheid South Africa, you're talking about a mini Uganda, whether you're talking about Zimbabwe, you're talking about South Africa, you're talking about Angola, student movements have been anchoring the development of the country. So whether you bribe them or not, but they present the position that is best suited for the country, it's not material to me. It's not material whether you bribe them. What I saw is that the UNSA president presented a petition to the EU Parliament. The EU head of delegation here tweeted and supported the move of demonstration and presentation of their position. I think what they would have loved is that we simply walk in quietly and come in and hand over. Why doesn't Noop do the same during campaigns to tell people and draw them to the attention of the same? I think if you're going to try and get the attention of the masses to what you're doing, what UNSA did is the right thing to do. And I can tell you, if it was the National Youth Council, would not have enough room on Kampala Road, because the idea which UNSA was presenting, which we must debate, is a question of whether the EU should single-handedly determine whether Uganda exploits its resources or not. And I just want to say, I don't know why Noop has a lot of trust in the EU over our resources than it has in Ugandans on developing our consensus. If you feel that there is a problem in the management procedure of our resources, that does not mean that we should hand them over to another country, to another group of countries to manage them on our behalf, to make those decisions on our behalf. Okay. It's a question of identity.
I have had that, and it boggles my mind. It is a paradox. The reason we have gone to European Union is because you're working with them to take our oil. 62% is total. France. It is not. Get me very clearly. Get me clearly.
No, because I get part of my time. He needs to give me part of his.
Okay, Alex.
The oil that we own the oil in totality. Where Total has equity stake,
I thought
I'm finishing, equity stake is in upstream facilities. In other words, the drilling materials. In the EACOP, they have equity stake of that high percentage. Again, it is in the construction of a pipeline. What moves is differently quantified from what is used to move it.
And we cannot run away from the fact that we don't have
but you can
resources, we don't have the capacity
you can use the
to
idea.
be able to enjoy the
let me give this simple. Let me give you this in the more simpler ways for everybody to understand.
Yes.
The reason we have taken our issues, first of all, Uganda does not live in isolation of the global statutes. That's number one. And these cut across economic, social, and others. We are not in isolation. Two, even with this oil itself, we have all the liberty to go anywhere because that is where you are doing business. The partners of this are Total France. It is a Sinop China.
Therefore, the government of Uganda has liberty to go anywhere to partner with anyone.
For us, what we are saying, for us, it is upon, if they have chosen to go to Europe for a business transaction of $12 billion, it is also our duty as the National Inter-Platform to have the opportunity. You'd be thanking us for having had the opportunity, for having found the means to also go where they have gone and stop it and ask for clarity. So anybody who says,
have clocked out of time.
Anybody who says, and I have seen them, that we are doing this for foreign interests. No, in fact, we are stopping foreign interest from exploiting our interest. You have given away.
I think they need to check what happened with Ecuador in
They have given, not only Ecuador, you go and I've told you the deals.
No. Have you checked what happened with Ecuador?
What happened with Angola?
Alex and Jacob,
what happened with Nigeria?
To this conversation.
And this,
at the end of the day, we must consider
they have gone worse.
It's supposed to be for Ugandans.
Yeah.
And we must consider.
And we are fighting for Ugandans.
No, you're not.
Let me tell you one thing, Priscilla.
The recommendation is that
now let me tell you one thing.
This conversation is
just one about oil.
Now we take a short breather and we shall be returning.
You're also hosting by asking me to allow her.